Hello, and welcome to Crochet and Chronicles, where we stitch together macabre mysteries and cozy crafts. I'm Aryia.
And I'm Siobhan. We're your hosts, bringing you tales of the strange, the unexplained, and the downright spooky, all while talking about our latest crochet projects.
That's right. And today we're setting sail on a ghostly voyage to explore the enigma of the Mary Celeste, a ship found adrift in 1872 with its crew mysteriously missing. It's a tale of unanswered questions, nautical lore, and a touch of the supernatural.
It gives me chills just thinking about it. But before we dive into the mystery, Aryia, what's on your hook today?
For this episode, I'm working on a C2C shawl. It's all airy openwork stitches in a deep ocean blue. I thought it would be perfect for today's theme, kind of an homage to the sea. This one is a first for me. I've actually never made a shawl before. This is my maiden voyage, you might say. But I'm always seeing people creating these beautiful pieces, and I'm super envious, so it's high time I gave it a go.
High time? I see what you did there. You're right though, some of the shawls people make are literal works of art. My current whip is a cozy, cable knit style blanket in sandy beige tones. It's not as directly nautical as yours, but it reminds me of being on a beach with those salty breezes. I always make the mistake of starting blankets in the winter, and by the time they are done, it's summer and way too hot to use them.
Oh goodness, I'm exactly the same way. But at least your project can keep you warm whilst you work on it. Imagine having that draped over your lap in the summertime. That colorway is very on theme though, bringing the shoreline to our ghost ship tale. Are you using any new techniques for the blanket?
I am actually. I'm trying a raised treble stitch for the cables. It gives them this fantastic texture. I love using texture to add sophistication to a one-color project. What about your shawl?
I'm experimenting with shell stitches to try and mimic the look of waves, but it's looking more like dragon scales if I'm being truly honest. It was fiddly to begin with, but it's quite relaxing now I've got into the rhythm of it. I love how meditative a piece with consistent stitches can be.
Isn't it funny how crochet projects can feel like storytelling? Every stitch tells a part of the journey.
Absolutely. And speaking of journeys, let's set sail on the Mary Celeste mystery. Imagine a ship sailing into port without a single soul on board. That's exactly what happened with the Mary Celeste in 1872, sparking one of the most enduring maritime mysteries of all time.
Wow, that's incredibly eerie. What exactly happened to this ghost ship?
Well, the Mary Celeste was a merchant brigantine that left New York City on November 7th, 1872, bound for Genoa, Italy. On board were Captain Benjamin Briggs, his wife Sarah, their 2-year-old daughter, and a crew of 7. The ship was carrying a cargo of industrial alcohol, which is important to remember for later.
So it was a family affair. That seems unusual for a merchant vessel of that time, doesn't it?
You're right, it was somewhat uncommon, but Captain Briggs was known to be an experienced and respectable sailor. The real mystery began on December 5th, less than a month after setting sail, when the Mary Celeste was found adrift in the Atlantic Ocean by another ship, the Dei Grazia.
Oh, I can only imagine what they found. Was there any sign of the crew?
That's the thing. The ship was completely abandoned. It was intact. There were no signs of a struggle or violence, and most of the cargo was untouched. There was plenty of food and water on board. It was as if the crew had simply vanished into thin air.
That's absolutely chilling. Were there any clues left behind?
Well, that's where it gets even stranger. Personal belongings were left behind, and there was even an unfinished meal on the table. It's like everyone just got up and left in the middle of their daily routines. The ship's log is another puzzling piece of this mystery. The last entry was dated November 25th, 10 days before the ship was found, and it mentioned nothing unusual.
10 days of silence? That's a long time for something to happen without any record. So, what theories have been proposed to explain this bizarre disappearance?
Over the years, numerous theories have been put forward, ranging from the plausible to the downright bizarre. One of the most popular involves the cargo. Remember that industrial alcohol I mentioned earlier? Some experts suggest that fumes from this cargo might have built up in the hold, leading the crew to fear an explosion. They might have abandoned ship as a precaution.
That makes sense. But wouldn't they have returned to the ship once they realized there was no danger?
Exactly. That's one of the issues with this theory. It doesn't account for why the ship was fine when it was found, or why there was no evidence of any real danger. Another theory that's been put forward is piracy. The Atlantic wasn't exactly the safest place in the 19th century, you know?
But if pirates had attacked, wouldn't they have taken the cargo or valuables?
You're right on the money there. That's the main problem with the piracy theory. The ship was found with most of its contents intact. Some historians have suggested that the crew might have fallen victim to a rogue wave or a waterspout. These are powerful, unpredictable phenomena that could potentially sweep people off a ship's deck.
That's a terrifying thought. But wouldn't a wave powerful enough to sweep away the entire crew have left some damage to the ship itself?
That's the main issue with the rogue wave theory. The ship itself was undamaged, which seems unlikely if it had encountered a wave powerful enough to sweep away the entire crew. There's also the possibility of mutiny, but again, there were no signs of violence or struggle on board.
It seems like every logical explanation has some major flaw. No wonder people have turned to more unusual theories.
Oh, you bet they have. As we exhaust the more logical explanations, it's no wonder that people have turned to more creative theories. Let's get into those after the break. But first, let's take a quick break to answer some questions from our Instagram followers. I asked our followers to write in some crochet-related would you rather questions for this episode.
Oh, that sounds super fun. I loved playing that back in high school.
Yeah, it was always a big hit at sleepovers in my teens. Okay, let's see what our listeners came up with. Okay, so at Keeping It Sweet asks, would you rather frog an entire project that you've nearly finished, or weave in the ends on a granny square blanket?
Oh, that is a tough call. Frogging an almost finished whip is so demoralizing, but weaving in ends is absolute torture. I think I'm going to have to go with I'd rather weave in ends though. Anytime I've had to frog a large part of a project, I end up hiding it in the back of the closet for at least a year before I can bear to look at it again.
Yes, so frustrating. I'm almost tempted to agree with you, but I hate weaving my ends in with a burning passion. I'd rather frog, I think. Although I tend to weave my ends in as I go when I can, so it's far less painful than leaving them to the end. Does that still count?
I guess we'll have to wait for At Keeping It Sweet to be the judge of that, you little cheater. Are there any more good ones?
There are some more, but I think I'll save the next one for Crochet Corner. I'm keen to get back to the Mary Celeste.
Oh yes, let's do that. And if you're enjoying the podcast, don't forget to follow us on Instagram and share your current crochet projects with the hashtag Crochet and Chronicles. Who knows? Your work might even get a shout out in the next episode.
Some believe the Mary Celeste was cursed. There are legends about ships doomed to misfortune, like the Flying Dutchman, and it gets even more outlandish. Some people have suggested alien abduction as an explanation.
Alien abduction? Now that is really out there, but I suppose when no logical explanation fits, people start looking to the supernatural. What do you think is the most plausible explanation?
Well, despite all these theories, I personally find myself leaning towards the alcohol fumes theory. It's not perfect, but it seems the most plausible to me. There's something haunting about the idea of a panicked evacuation that didn't need to happen. But you know, what makes the Mary Celeste so fascinating is precisely the fact that no theory fits perfectly.
That's a great point. It's the lack of a clear answer that keeps this mystery alive after all these years, isn't it?
Absolutely. And it's not just the mystery itself that's captivating, but what it represents. The Mary Celeste taps into our deepest fears about the sea, this vast, unpredictable force that we can never fully control or understand. It's a reminder of how vulnerable we are, even with all our technology and experience.
It's interesting to think about how this story might have played out today with modern communication technology like GPS tracking and advanced weather forecasting. Would a mystery like this even be possible?
That is a fascinating question. We have so many more tools at our disposal now. If a ship went missing today, we'd probably be able to track its last known position, contact nearby vessels, access satellite imagery. But on the other hand, the oceans are still vast and often unpredictable. We've seen in recent years that even with all our modern technology, planes and ships can still disappear without a trace. Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 comes to mind.
That's a great parallel. Even in our high-tech world, there's still room for mystery.
Exactly. Maybe that's why stories like the Mary Celeste continue to captivate us. They remind us that the world is still full of unknowns. And perhaps that's not entirely a bad thing. These mysteries keep our sense of wonder alive. They remind us that there's always more to discover, more to learn.
Well said. It's been quite a journey exploring this enigma. As we wrap up, why do you think stories like this continue to fascinate us?
I think it's a combination of factors. There's the puzzle-solving aspect. We all love a good mystery and the challenge of trying to figure it out. But there's also something deeper. These stories tap into our fear of the unknown, our curiosity about what lies beyond our understanding, and perhaps they also appeal to our sense of humility. They remind us that despite all our knowledge and technology, there are still things in this world that we can't explain. It's a humbling thought, but also an exciting one.
So, in a way, these mysteries keep us questioning, exploring, and imagining?
Precisely. And who knows, maybe someday we'll uncover new evidence that sheds light on what really happened to the Mary Celeste. Until then, we can continue to ponder, theorize, and be captivated by this enduring maritime mystery. It's a reminder that sometimes the most fascinating stories are the ones without endings.
That's a beautiful way to end our exploration of this fascinating mystery.
Thank you. Let's switch gears and head into Crochet Corner. We asked listeners to send in nautical-themed projects, and you delivered.
Big shout out to at Seaside Stitches for their adorable crochet octopus. It's like a little sea monster you'd actually want to cuddle. And at Anchor and Thread made a set of coasters shaped like ship wheels. So clever.
We also got a photo from at Waves and Whirls, who's making a fisherman's sweater with intricate wave patterns. Absolutely stunning work. Keep tagging us. We love seeing your creativity. And if you're working on something inspired by today's story, let us know.
Wait, what about those other would you rathers?
Oh, right, yes. Thanks for the reminder. Just let me pull up Instagram real quick here. Here we go. Okay. Here's one that's super relevant for me right now. Would you rather finish your project only to realize you're one skein of yarn short? Or discover you crocheted the wrong size entirely?
Definitely rather crochet the wrong size. If you go back to the store for that last skein, guaranteed, it's either sold out, no longer stocked, or it's in stock, but it's a different dye lot. I cannot tell you how much I hate dye lots.
Ooh, good point about the dye lots. I personally don't often work on projects where dye lots are super critical, so I'd definitely rather that. But as for crocheting the wrong size, this literally just happened to me recently. I've been working on a granny square project for almost a year, but I put it down for about 4 or 5 months and recently picked it back up. So I had to re-familiarize myself with the pattern. So I work up a few squares, then I go to put them away with the squares I did all those months ago. And they are totally different sizes. I go back to the pattern to see what on earth I've done, and it turns out that the first 40 squares I did somehow using a totally wrong hook size.
40 squares? How?
I have no idea. Clearly I can't read.
So what did you do?
Well, I sure as hell am not frogging 40 squares. Looks like the blanket I'm making is going to be a bit smaller than planned.
Amazing. I'm so glad that hasn't happened to me yet. I can't wait to see your granny squares for Aunt's blanket.
It's not that small. I'll get over it. Eventually. Thanks to it, Kittens Love Q-tips for that one. Love that username too, by the way.
Well, Aryia, I think we've unraveled as much as we can about the Mary Celeste.
Definitely. It's one of those mysteries that keeps you hooked. Pun intended.
Thank you for joining us on this eerie nautical journey. Don't forget to follow, like, and share Crochet and Chronicles wherever you listen to your podcasts.
And keep those hooks moving and your curiosity alive. Until next time, happy stitching and sweet dreams of the macabre.